Now is a great time to start gardening and providing safe, healthy food to your family and your community. But too many people make the mistake of diving into gardening and spending a lot of money and thinking that they need a bunch of things. I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. We don't need to buy a bunch of things. We don't need to spend a bunch of money. We just need to have some heart, have some community. My partner and I built our garden from the ground up, and we grew so much beautiful food on like a very small budget this year. So here are my tips and tricks for building a budget-friendly garden in 2025. Hello and welcome back. I'm Christina and Manita, and I love all things thrifty and crafty and naturey. And today we are talking budget-friendly garden. Yay! I am so excited to share with you some of my tips and tricks because I've been seeing too much content suggesting that gardening is this expensive, hard endeavor, and it can be if you make it that way. It can also be easy. It can be a little bit lazy if you put in just a little bit of extra work at the very beginning. So let's get into how to build a garden on a budget. So the theme here is to start small, have a realistic budget, and don't buy any chemicals or pesticides, and don't forget to eat the weeds. So our first tip is observe your space. This is so key in a lot of different farming practices, in permaculture or regenerative agriculture, and just in general, observing your space is a great way to get to know what's going on and what is needed. So first, I'd say before buying anything, planting anything, tilling everything, observe your garden. Some people say a whole year. I'm not that patient. Do what you need to do, but observe your garden, observe what's growing already in the ground where you're going to plant, or if you're not going to plant in the ground, this step's irrelevant for you. But if you're planting in the ground, you want to know like what weeds are growing there. Is there grass? We had moss growing in some of our lawn, and then we also got our hands in there. We stuck our hands down in the soil and saw what it was, which was basically clay. You can probably figure out some of it on your own, depending on where you live and what kind of soil you have. If you want to do a soil test, check out your local extension office and see about sending it in. It does cost a little money, but it might be worth it, especially because a huge part of this whole observing and checking the soil is to find out what you actually need to add to be successful. So don't think you have to add all these things based on one video or one article or anything. Each garden, each soil, each area, a microclimate, if you will, microclimate, is so vastly different. So check out what's already existing in your soil. Find out if you need to add certain materials. Find out what animals live around there and what you might be dealing with as far as animals or pests. I wouldn't call them pests because they're just animals trying to have a snack, and I'm okay with sharing with them. But if that's something that you're not okay with, maybe you want to invest in some fencing. So plan your garden around what you observe, and don't spend any money until you find out what you actually need to add to be successful. And then plan a garden that is a manageable size for you. So if you're starting out and it's your first garden, maybe start pretty small. This was our 4th year gardening, but our first time in the ground, not just in like little pots around our yard. And we decided to go for a pretty big garden. We went for 25 by 30 feet. And we planted in the ground. We did some broad forking and then a tiny bit of like a little till that was only like a couple inches deep. It was very old. And that just kind of flattened out the ground. And then we put it in there. So we kind of bit off a lot, but it ended up not being more than we could chew, luckily, because we used all these tips. So the next tip is do it yourself. And I know we're tired of hearing this, but it does help. So number one do it yourself thing is to start a compost pile. If it's like the dead of winter and it's obviously not time to start a garden yet, start a compost pile. I think it's a great thing to do. I don't see any negatives in my situation where I live and how it worked out for us. Even if we don't end up in the end getting to use the compost, it's been about a year now, so hopefully we'll get to use it this season, but if not, we might move before we get to, and that's okay because it was beneficial for everyone. It was beneficial for us to not be throwing that crap out, beneficial for the the materials that were in there that are getting replaced into the soil. It's beneficial for whatever comes next over there. Even if it stays in that pile, eventually something will grow in it and be very happy, I'm sure. Maybe even some things that we threw some seeds in there. So if you're gonna do one thing this month before the garden season starts, I don't know where you live. I live in zone 6A. So depending where you live, it might be time already, but if it's not, start gathering up your food scraps and get a compost pile. There's a lot of different things on how to start it, but honestly, you could just throw some stuff out in a dark spot in the garden, or not in the garden, in near the woods, wherever. Get it going. There's tons of videos. I won't instruct you, but it's too easy to not do. Just go for it. The next thing is saving seeds, whether you're saving seeds from like produce you're getting at the store, or whether you're saving seeds from stuff you grew last year or whatever. It's just a great way to continue to have seeds. When you're buying things at the store and thinking about saving seeds, go with organic, locally grown stuff, whatever, we know. The next thing is foraging. You can forage for some materials for the garden, like leaf mold. Be aware of, local guidelines. If it's your land, then you can do it as you please. Don't take more than you need, but that's a great way to add in some like microbes and some beneficial stuff into your garden for free. So take a bucket out to the woods and get some leaf mold. I haven't done this, but you can also make like compost tea with things like mullein, I believe. So things that you can forage that have like a lot of nutrients that you can make into a tea and feed your plants. Be mindful of that. Find more information somewhere else, but just something to play in your head. Build things. If you're gonna build like a trellis or a greenhouse, try and build from old materials or from foraged materials. There's foraged like sticks. We have a lot of Japanese knotweed around here, unfortunately, but it makes for great like stakes. So see what's around that you can use for free rather than buying trellises. And then the last thing is just like upcycling materials. That speaks for itself. So all of this is great, but before like making a bunch of things or trying to DIY things, you can check with your community. So next up is the community, and I think this is probably the most important tip. Okay, tip number 3 is community. And oh my gosh, this is the best one. This is the one that was the most important for us for building our garden for basically free. So community, so starting with friends and family. My grandparents had a lot of stuff. We got compost from them. We got a couple of tools from them. We had a friend that gave us this old tiller that they just like found on the side of the road and fixed up, and they gave it to us for free. We borrowed Broad Fork from Facebook. There's like a homestead group, but there's also Buy Nothing groups. Yeah, so Facebook, also like going to swaps. So check with your local gardening community about like seed swaps or seedling swaps, plant swaps. Check with your local municipality. We got a ton of wood chips for free that we just kept going back and getting more buckets as we needed. So that was a great thing. And checking with seedling programs. So check with your local extension office because they will have a lot of the information about what's around you. As far as like seedling programs, training programs, you can do your soil testing like I mentioned. They have just tons of stuff. So check your local extension office. I still don't really know what it is, but when someone mentioned it to me, I was like, and then I looked it up and I was like, wow, this is key. Extension office, look it up. Yeah. One like key idea that I had was, we got a lot of seedlings from friends that they started and they have too much of, but also like if you don't have friends who start seedlings, but you have friends who also want to grow some stuff, go seedling shopping together and split whatever you get, because like, especially with things like herbs, you get like 6-8 little plants of that herb and you might not need all of them. So go with a friend and see like go halvesies on all of the things, because then you get more bang for your buck, in my opinion, because you get more plants that you want and you don't have extra plants that you didn't need. I'll leave that there. And then the last thing is just in general reciprocity. So if you're putting all of this out there and you're looking for all of these things in your community and you're not having a lot of luck, think about what you can offer the community as well, because it's all about reciprocity. Think about what you can offer to the Buy Nothing groups or to your family and friends. Giving and receiving, it's not always exactly a one-to-one, but it is crucial for bringing it back. So think about some reciprocity that you can give, especially if you have gotten some materials from people. Think about what you could offer them. If it's like a homemade good you make, like even just like some brownies. If you can, when we returned the broad fork, we brought some of the squash that we grew, or sometimes we'll return it with like a box of brownies or cookies or something. So think about reciprocity. That is key, not only for finding and building community, but for staying part of a thriving community. Communities thrive when we all work together. So before we get into an even better one than that, we're going to go with number 4, which is thrifting. All right, tip number 4, thrifting. So if you did all the things, you did all the DIY, you foraged as much as you could, and you went on your local market or your local buy nothing groups, and you did all of that, and you're still needing some stuff, thrifting is a great place to go, especially if it's summertime and there's like lots of garage sales and yard sales. Like those are key. That's a great place to get a very cheap tool or a very cheap pot for plants, or really anything you might need for the garden. You might stumble upon it at a yard sale, a garage sale, an estate sale, lots of places. Next to that is like Goodwill. Goodwill, they'll probably charge you more, and I think it's just better to support like people in your neighborhood, in your community, just trying to sell, you know, some stuff that they don't need anymore. Like that's awesome. Let's do that. And then beyond that, of course, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, always buying used. There's so much of this stuff already out there. Yeah, even like if you join like a Facebook homestead group and you can't get any materials for free, like ask if anybody is selling compost or aged manure or anything like that. We got a lot of aged manure from a friend for free, but she bought it from somebody and just had like a ton. So look for things like that. And then the last thing is, you know, if you have to, from Amazon, you can often get things used for a little bit cheaper, and it's pretty much still new. They just call it used. So if you really have to, but hopefully you don't. So thrifting, another good point. So let's get on to, I think my favorite, the best one. So this one definitely goes along with community, but it needed its own tip because it's amazing. The library. So number 5 is the library. So libraries are great for obvious things like books on gardening, or like even DVDs and CDs and things like trainings, stuff like that on gardening, on specific things. But they also sometimes have tools that that are lent out. So check with your local library to see if they have tools like that. And the more that we use our libraries, the bigger they'll become, the more things that they can source. We can ask them to source things for us, for the community. So participate in your local library. There's no downside to it. Please do it. Do it now. Get a library card. So obviously books and then tools. A lot of libraries have seed libraries, or you can check to see if there's a separate seed library in your community. But remember that if you get free seeds from a seed library, bring back seeds at the end of the season from what you grew so that it keeps going. Reciprocity. Keep it going. And then often libraries will have classes, or they'll have an ability to tell you where like some classes might be or some trainings. And just in general, libraries are a resource. Their whole thing is that they're a resource, right? So use it. Use the resource. It's free. It's amazing, and we need them. So use them so that they are still there for us. Yes. All right, and that brings us to our last point. Okay, and our last point, number 6, is to make the most of your garden. So one way to really do this is to grow things that you will actually eat, that you and your family will actually enjoy. If you're getting like free seedlings from someone else, we often do. Sometimes we get random stuff that we never would have thought to grow, but in those cases, like it's great to have that because it's a nice experiment. But if you're buying seedlings, go for stuff that you know you will eat. And then don't put all your eggs in one basket. So try a lot of different things. Try a little bit of a lot, because biodiversity, diversity, I'll say it again, diversity. Diversity is what we need in every facet of growing food, of eating food, in the earth in general. Biodiversity and diversity are what makes life happen. So That's what's going to make your soil healthy. It's going to help with pest control. It's going to help with just weather effects, like everything. Please, biodiversity, because especially with like mending soil, like if you grow different things, especially like the three sisters, the bean, the corn, the squash, they all feed each other in a way so that things grow better. And so don't put all your eggs in one basket. Grow a bunch of things for all the reasons, for every reason, but let diversity be a big one. And just have fun. Just have fun. Use the stuff that you grow in your garden. Give it away. Bake things and give those things to people. You know, all of gardening, all of agriculture is a community, and the community here is beautiful. So get into it. Get excited about it. And if no one ever told you, I hope that you now know that like there is this huge gardening community. No matter where you live, there is one, I swear. So look it up, find your community, and benefit from that. And they will benefit from having you as well. So I hope you enjoyed my tips, my 6 tips for a budget-friendly garden in 2025. Let me know down in the comments what else you would like to know about building a garden from scratch and engaging in the gardening community. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe and join me in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.